All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is episode 18 of the Last One Fast One podcast. Our guest tonight is absolutely incredible. I guess I'm kind of speechless for what to say, and it's an honor to have him. He's an NCAA champion, two-time Olympic gold medalist, current world record holder as part of the most legendary race in history, the 4x100 meter freestyle relay in Beijing. It's Garrett Weber-Gale. Thanks for joining us, Garrett.
Thanks for having me on here.
Garrett, what got you into swimming? So way back in your younger days.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin called Stevens Point. There wasn't much going on there, and my mom took us to the pool at this rec center basically every day. She swam every day for pregnancy. She was a swimmer in college, as was her dad, and we just were always in the water. When I was a kid, we moved to Milwaukee from that small town and was on the summer league team and just loved being in the water. My sister and I'd be over there 3 times a day, and naturally just kind of had an affinity for the water. It kind of seemed to move through it in ways that other people my age didn't really quite understand how to do water. My mom kind of brags I had a perfect butterfly in her eyes when I was 4 years old. And story, my high school swim coach, Dwight Davis, actually, he was like the head of the pool at that point. And he saw me swimming fly there when I was like 4 years old and said, who is that kid? Where's he going to high school? And that was kind of the start of my swimming career of, falling in love with the water. And actually, we'll probably talk about this later, but didn't actually start swimming year round until I was 14. So just fell in love with it early, did a lot of different things before really focusing on it later in life.
I gotcha.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I'm from Iowa and Luke's from Nebraska. Well, I'm from Nebraska too, but I'm living in Iowa now. What's the swim culture like in Wisconsin compared to other states?
I would say the swim culture was pretty good in
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin. There's certainly some fast swimmers who've come out of Wisconsin over the years, some Olympians, a lot of people who swim in college. I would say it's probably a smaller swimming state and certainly nothing like Texas, which I eventually came down to swim at, later in my high school career. And that was a pretty big, wide, eye-opening experience because Texas and California and Florida, they're just like massive swimming states compared to everything else.
Right.
Yep. That's
So
kind
when
of
did you decide to go down to Texas to train?
When I was I want to say during my junior year of high school, it started becoming apparent that the place I was swimming, the people I was swimming around, I was kind of hitting my upper limit of who I was training with and who could help me really progress to that next level. I'd gone to swim camps. I'd swum, in Florida with Jack Nelson, really legendary coach who was the only person to swim in Olympics and be the head coach of an Olympic team. I'd gone to swim for Misty Hyman's coach in the summer, Bob Glide at the Arizona Sports Ranch. I went to the Ohio State swim camp. I went to a spring camp with Mike Bottom back when he was coaching at Cal with Anthony Irvin and Gary Hall and Bart Kisrowski and those guys. And it became apparent that, there were a lot of coaches out there who were pretty next level. And I wanted to get to the next level. And so we started asking around, and really two coaches kind of came up as, the development coaches that, were the best options to go to at that time. Dave Sala, who was at Nova Aquatics, and Randy Reese, who's at Circle C down in Austin at the time. And we talked to both of them at kind of a spring nationals meet that was in Minneapolis. Randy just kind of hit it off with us. He's a real straight shooter. He, looked at my races. He kind of gave me some technique tips, and we just really seemed to jive with him. And so he invited us to come down, and I swam with him starting after junior year of high school. My mom and I moved down to Austin to swim with him, and that was pretty bonkers. I got down to Austin, and like Neil Walker, fellow Wisconsin, guy who was ahead of me, but Olympian, he was training with Randy. Josh Davis, Olympian, was training with Randy. A bunch of these people was like, oh my gosh. I went from swimming in Wisconsin on a team where I would win everything in practice to going to swim with Randy. And he had, 14-year-old girls. I was 16 at the time who beat me everything in practice, not to mention just, Josh and Nate and all these other people my age.
Jeez. Yeah, that's definitely an experience for sure. So start taking us through. So that was junior year. Do you think how much of a like progression did you go through swimming there in Texas versus in Wisconsin?
Pretty dramatic. I want to say the summer after my sophomore year of high school, I went 54-1 in the 100 free. The summer after my junior year of high school, I think I went 51-8. I dropped time like crazy and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the first time I really ever even trained doubles. And I was kind of, in some ways, swimming and sport is about constantly expanding what you think you're capable of. And when I went down there to swim with Randy, I kind of got a taste for the first time of what I might be capable of and what other people are capable of in swimming. You go down there and you get a sense of what it looks like to really be a good underwater kicker. I was always a good kicker on a board. Not many people could ever beat me on a board. And then I went down there and got a new kind of level set for me of what that meant to be a good kicker on a board and what it meant to kick with tennis shoes on your feet and how much that strengthened your legs. So I got so much better. I mean, I think I went 45-5 my junior year of high school. And then stayed down there with Randy that summer. It got so much better. I begged my parents, please let me stay down here. I want to continue getting better. They agreed to let me stay down there my first semester, my senior year of high school. I went to a meet that December with Randy. I went 43-7 in the 100-yard free. So dropped almost 2 seconds in the 100 freestyle. I didn't know at the time, but that was actually under the National Public High School record. But it wasn't a high school meet. And then I was like, I want to go break the national high school record. So I went back to Wisconsin second semester my senior year to swim for Nicolay High School. Wanted to break that national high school record. Ended up going 43-4. So, swimming a year with Randy, I dropped 2 seconds in the 100 freestyle. That'd be different if you were going, 52 to 50 point. But at that time to go from 45, which I think I got second in the Y Nationals that year, my junior year.
Yeah.
Which is already a really fast time. And then going 2 seconds faster just is pretty ridiculous. And it was kind of inarguable that he knew what he was doing. And the recipe that we worked on down there was something I needed to continue.
Yeah, for sure. So that state meet, was there anyone even remotely close to you when you go 43 and break the national high school record in Wisconsin?
I want to say Matt Engel, maybe the guy who got second. He was like 45 or something.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Cooking.
So at what point do you kind of start looking at colleges? Just when?
I started looking at colleges. I think my junior year, we went to visit some colleges after meeting California. We went to look at Stanford, Cal, USC. I kind of had this benchmark for myself. I was not going to go anywhere in the cold. I didn't want to wake up in the morning and go to morning practice and 0 degrees. I'd done that tons, shoveled the car off growing up in Wisconsin. I didn't want to do that. So I really only looked at Texas, Cal, Arizona, Stanford, and USC. Came down for me between Texas and USC. Texas was just the best option in my mind, not only because they had the pedigree of guys who were doing what I wanted to do, which was go to the Olympics and win medals, but it combined the best of athletics and the best of academics. And I really wanted to go someplace where I felt like there were going to be father figures away from home. And Chris Kubik, who was then the assistant, Eddie Reese, who's still the coach down here, they were so blatantly, obviously going to take care of me away from my parents, which were, 1,500 miles away. And that was really important to me.
For sure. And what were some goals you had going into college? Was it you obviously had a great college career. We're going to get into that, but what were some things just on the top of your head that were some of your goals going into at Texas?
I don't even know that I had that many college goals as much as it was I saw the Olympics in 1994, the Lillehammer Games. We were on a ski trip, and I remember my parents watching it, like the lobby of this hotel. And I walked out kind of like from the hotel room and saw kind of like the Olympic soundtrack playing, and they were kind of doing the intro to what the Olympics was. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. And then 2 years later, in 96, I remember watching every single minute of the Olympics on TV that summer with my sister. And we saw Josh Davis and Gary Hall Jr. and all these swimmers, Tom Dolan, Mal Chow. And I was like, whoa, this is super cool. And I've thought so much about what on earth was so alluring about the Olympics.
Yeah.
It's still even hard for me to put into perspective, like what was so enticing about that. But really for me, it was all about where could I go to become an Olympian? I mean, Cal was super compelling because Mike was coaching great sprinters at that time, but the academics at Cal, I didn't feel like I was going to get the support there I needed. Mark Schubert at USC obviously had produced a lot of Olympians, but they were more distance oriented. That might not have been a fit for me. And so when I went to Texas, I think a lot of guys go into college thinking they wanted to be an NCAA champion, or they wanted to win a team championship, or frankly, a lot of people were just excited to be on the team, to be able to compete in college, to go on their travel squad. That stuff really never even came into my brain, because that was just kind of, obvious that I was going to be able to go and do those things because I just was confident, my ability to swim and get faster and work hard. For me, it was just all about what do I do to make the Olympic team? And, the summer after my freshman year of college was the 2004 Olympic trials. And everything was keyed in on trying to make that team.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So take
when
us
I went
through
to
that.
Texas, I mean, I showed up, there were like 7 or 8 guys who had already been US Olympians on that pool deck. Out of like 35 people, 7 of them were already Olympians. So it was like the bar was set. I could tell what might be required to go and do that. And it's like, just go out and do it.
Yeah. So it's the place to be for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So,
still is the place to be.
True. Very true.
I mean, hey, they're still dominating. Like
we had Nate German-Prey. He's a Texas commit from Nebraska. We had him on, and I think he's like tied for the #1 spot in the country in Texas, of course.
Yeah.
He's still getting all the good ones for sure.
Yeah. Insane. So take us through. So obviously you hit on like freshman year of college. What kind of or just try to sum up how difficult the training is there at Texas?
I would say that the training at Texas is set up where everyone can make the sets, but it's set up to where Eddie recruits guys who want to get after it. He talks about how the thing he looks for most is just recruiting good people who are going to be good students who happen to be good athletes. And when you have 35 people in the pool, on any given day, maybe half dozen of those guys are going to be feeling good for whatever reason. And then they're feeling good, they get after it. And I'm just making this up completely, but you're doing maybe a set of, best average 100 frees from a push on 110 or 115. And a few of them are going, under 50 because they're feeling really good. Well, then everyone else, you want to really try and race them. And so there's this collective energy that builds, and that's really what feeds the Texas culture and the practices. So completing the workouts, you can complete them and they're hard, but they're totally doable. But then it gets kind of taken to this other level, which is everyone's striving to improve. I would say most people are striving to improve. And then that's where it gets really hard because you don't want to get beat by other people.
For sure.
Gotcha.
So we want to talk a little bit about that 2006 national championship that you won from lane 8.
Yeah.
So Luke actually has got the video pulled up here. So he's gonna share the screen with you.
Nice.
And then
I can't believe you found this video. That's great.
Oh,
I had to scroll 30 minutes into it. They don't even. So I've got it pulled up here. Hold on.
Oh my gosh, this is great. Okay.
Okay,
cool.
So we'll mute it for that sake. But
so yeah, hold on, Luke. Pause it real quick.
All right.
So first off, tell us how'd you end up in lane 8? I want to hear about that. So take us through that prelim swim.
Yeah, I mean prelims. There's a guy in front of me in the lane my same lane, the heat in front of me, Matt McGinnis, who was a Texas guy, a good friend of mine. And he false started the heat ahead of me. And so like that just kind of rattled me a little bit. Like I'm
Yeah.
staying behind the blocks. He just false starts in the 100 free. And so I remember just kind of like having this like nerves of not wanting to false start. And so they said, take your marks, and the gun went off. And I remember just like kind of being shocked sitting there. And I remember like being in the air and seeing other people like already in the water, like underwater kicking. Like I was so far behind from the start.
Okay.
And so I just kind of like went crazy and was so grateful to just get, make up the ground and get in the final. So yeah, I mean, getting in lane 8, and then I was just kind of angry, to be honest, that I was in the 8th position, that I, was so slow off the start in the prelims, and that kind of fury just really fired me up. And
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, that's kind of how I swam. I mean,
Yeah.
Ian Crocker said something to me one time, 90. So I'll take this back real quick. Eddie Reese always says that 90% of the Olympic team hates to lose, 10% loves to win.
Uh-huh.
And what that really kind of combines with is this thing that Ian Crocker told me, which is, most people who go to the Olympics, they're really kind of messed up. Like they've got something that like, has happened to them or is fueling them, and it's coming kind of from a negative place. And when I was growing up, I always had this dream of going to the Olympics. And in Wisconsin, everyone would say like, oh, you're never going to go to the Olympics. You're too small. You're not talented enough. You're not strong enough. Why do you think you're going to be good enough to go to the Olympics? And people would always say that. It would just light me up. Like you couldn't believe. I mean, I would just get so annoyed by it. And what that led was me just wanting to prove everyone wrong. And it had, give me a chip on my shoulder. And so, that's where the 90% hates to lose comes in. It's like, if you lose, then it gives fuel to the fire of the people on the other side. You aren't good enough. You aren't strong enough. You aren't big enough. You aren't talented enough, whatever it is. And so whatever it might be, so many of those people who go to the top, they have something that they're running from, that they're, trying to solve in their life. Maybe their parents got divorced. Maybe swimming is kind of a sanctuary for them for some reason or the other. And, I remember walking up to that race, and I was just kind of sick and tired of not doing as well as I wanted to. And like that preliminary swim, barely making it. And then Grievers, he and I were kind of always, battling in races in college. And he was the #1 recruit coming out of high school. So we were always kind of like, back and forth in that way. And I remember he walked up to me before that race, and I had been sitting kind of where everyone was lining up, getting ready. He's like, man, you got here early. And there was just something about that comment. It just like really annoyed me. And that was like, just kind of like even a further tipping point. Like my adrenaline was just like so hot, ready for this race. And I think if anyone saw me, like they could have just like said, whoa, like something's, lit in Garrett right now. And that happened. That just came out in this race.
Yeah,
for sure. I'll play the clip. I mean, it's impressive.
Yeah, this is a loaded field too. I mean,
yeah, for sure. I mean, Simon Burnett was the fastest, in the world in the 200. CLO, he was coming on the scene. He wasn't really quite, at his peak at that point, but Greers was in there. Matt Target from Australia was in there. This looks like it's kind of in slow-mo. Maybe we're just going that slow. Maybe it's, I don't know. But basically I was just like, I'm going to go out in this race. And, I just went out. I think I was out in like 19.9, which at the time was fast. Yeah. 19.8, something like that. 19.98, yeah. And I didn't really know where I was. I was, in lane 8 right there at the top. But felt good. And I think that last 25, I maybe took one breath. That's something I was getting into. And right about here, kind of approaching 5 meters to go, something happened and my goggles like kind of flooded with water. And if you keep playing this, like I couldn't see anything. So like when they show me, I'm kind of looking around like, I couldn't even tell what happened, right? So Ben Wildman, like, look, I can't see anything at this point. Literally, I'm looking up there. I don't know what's happening. I'm asking the timers, like, hey, tell me what I went, what place did I get? And then Ben Wildman Tobriner comes up, who was my friend from the World Championships in 2005, Stanford guy. See, I'm like, still, I have no idea what happened. Normally I would have just been like, super stoked. And so I said to him, what did I go? So Ben comes up and he's like, you got first and I got second. So it was a really cool experience. It was really fun to have, won that race. And just kind of another stop along the journey for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's an insane. You can see the Texas team is just ecstatic.
Yeah. That's back when I think 42-1 was a good time, So now I don't even know what people are going in the 100 free, like 39 or something. I don't even know.
I think,
40.
It's crazy.
Russell's got the record at 39.9, but
yeah, right.
Yeah. So you win that national title, and I heard that story I was at a Wisconsin swim camp, and Neil Caskey was telling us that story. So then when we were gonna do the podcast with you, I was like, Luke, you got to find that video. And I think he also said something. Were you doing like 300 push-ups a day?
Yeah. So I did just kind of a number of different things. Like strength was always my challenge of like figuring out how do I get stronger? How do I get better? I remember after my sophomore year of college, I made the world championships team in 2005, won a gold medal as part of that relay. And while I had I think I had the fastest time actually on the prelims, the coaches decided to put Nate Dusing on the finals relay, which really kind of annoyed me. And I was like, gosh, I don't want to be on just, relays anymore.
Right.
I want to get to this next level. And I remember Aaron Pearsall giving me a ride home from practice one time. I was like, Aaron, what do I have to do to get to the next level? Like, I want to be where you're at, winning individual medals. And he was just like, continue doing what you're doing. Like, you're doing all the right stuff. You're working in the weight room. You're working your technique. You're aerobically getting more fit. Just be patient. So I kept working. And I was always looking for ways that I could improve. So it was like, I was a freak for improving my technique. I'd watch people underwater, above water, work on my start, saw nutritionists. Strength was always a battle for me. So it was like, I decided to do 300 extra push-ups a day for my junior year of college. And so it was like, literally anytime I would get up from studying or get up from the, dinner table or breakfast table, I would do 25 push-ups.
Yeah.
And then I got to the point where like I just got so much stronger. I would start doing this thing where I do 50 and then 45 and then 40 and then 35 and then 30. And it just became so much easier for me to do that stuff.
Yeah.
But I did other things. Like I would go running at night. I would do, weighted jump rope at night, just like trying to figure out whatever I possibly could to beat people.
Yeah.
And some of it might have been like, to a detriment physically, but mentally it was like really important for me to do that stuff. And so, later on, I'll tell you like kind of a story of how that went kind of too far in the opposite direction. But leading into that, race, I was, going pretty crazy trying to get stronger.
Trying to find that 1%, whatever you can do to get that 1% better. Yeah. So your teammates are resting, going to bed, doing studying. You're just hammering push-ups.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So Luke, let's say we transitioned to 2008 just for time's sake.
Yeah.
2008
so
Olympic
let's
trials.
Talk. Yes. Go ahead, Luke. Take it. Olympic trials. 50
free, 100 free. And you are just flying. Kind of just take us through like some of the prep you went through beforehand and take us through those races. Cause I mean, 2 individual wins, and so you're on relay spots for 2008, and then heck, that's a crazy Olympics.
Yeah. So 2004, I missed the Olympic team by 1 place. I went and I wanted to get top 6 in the 100 free. I was seated 23rd in the psych sheet going to that meet. And I remember printing out the psych sheet and crossing out all the names of the people that I was going to be. If they went to Auburn, I would cross their name out. If I had raced them before, because I didn't like Auburn. If I'd raced them before and nearly lost to them, I'd cross out if I thought I could beat them. if I just didn't like them, frankly, I'd cross them out. And I ended up being super nervous before the prelims, just like, gosh, I've done all this effort. What if I like have this aspiration of getting to the Olympics and don't make it out of the prelims to the semifinals? And I'm like nervous. I had my suit on. I was going to be swimming next to Neil Walker in the prelims, who's like my favorite training partner of all time, kind of my hero in the sport of swimming. And Eddie Reese comes up to me. He could tell I was really nervous. He hands me a cup of water and he says, like, splash some of this on your face. I was like, okay, cool. I'll splash some of it on my face. My nerves totally went away. He said, if it gets worse, just take your jacket off, jump in the pool, and it'll be fine. So I get to the race. Neil and I go 1-2. It was my first time going under 49, the 100 free. I make it to the semifinals. Then I make it to the finals. I'm in the finals and I recorded my audio journal that night, the night before the finals. Like, tomorrow this time I'll be on the US Olympic team. And that day I went to the pool and Eddie and Chris were like, hey, it's gonna be really choppy in there, like a lot of big strong guys. Why don't you go out a little bit slower and you'll have more energy coming back, you'll close on people. It's like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. And so, mind you, that was not my strategy ever in races. Like, I always went out fast and just like hung on. And so I, some of the strategy, I get to the wall, hit the wall, and literally like the worst feeling in the world comes over me. I had more in the tank. I hit the wall and I just like, I knew that I had more in the tank. Like, and that's part of the problem with trying to back half it. You never know like actually how much you have unless you swim it like that all the time. And then even still, you're not always sure. I looked at the board and there was a 7 next to my name. And I just like put my hands in my face and just like started crying. It was like the only time I cried for a race. I thought my Olympic trip was over. I thought just like, I was so devastated. I went back to talk to Eddie and Chris and they're trying to console me. And then Chris finally says, hey, look up at the scoreboard. I looked up there. My name was still there with the number 7 on it. Think about how bad you feel right now and make a promise that you'll never feel this type of pain and disappointment again. So I just thought about it. I looked up there. I thought about how bad I felt. And I just said, okay, yeah, I promised myself I'm never going to feel this type of pain and disappointment again. And every single day after that, when I didn't want to go to practice, I didn't want to wake up, I was sick, I didn't want to race someone in practice, I thought back to that moment of how horrible I felt. And that's what really kept, inspiring me to keep pushing forward. And then the fall of 2004, I remember talking to this guy on the Texas swim team, John Patterson, backstroker, a year ahead of me. And I don't remember how it came up. I said, yeah, in 2008, I'm going to be number 1 in the 100 and the 200 freestyle. And I always trained in the middle distance group at Texas. So I was always training for the 200 freestyle. And that, gave me a good 100 freestyle. And then, when I tapered, I'd have, great 50 freestyle. And I'm sure plenty of coaches could debate this and argue this, yada, yada, whatever. But the reality is, like, I don't think anyone ever will have a better record than Eddie Reese in terms of performance, many, many ways. And so I always trusted him and trusted Chris. And so for 4 more years, I just worked and tried to do everything I possibly could. Got diagnosed with high blood pressure at that point, almost had to give up my swimming career, got super into nutrition and food, and then got to the Olympics in 2008, the Olympic trials, and was like, it was already a done deal in my head. Like, I was going to make the Olympic team. I was just super stoked. I knew that I was going to swim really fast, and I had just like been getting excited for months and months, writing in my journal like how awesome it was going to feel. Year before, and I'll get to the Olympic trials, which you asked me about, but this is kind of important background. So year before, I hadn't really ever shared this story, but if you've seen the Greatest Race documentary on NBC, I've shared it there. So, I feel comfortable sharing here. But year before, I'm sitting in Jason Lezak's hotel room in Australia at the 2007 World Champs. And he says to me, he says, as long as I'm swimming, you'll never beat me. And like that, again, that kind of stuff can, at the time, just like would throw me into like this, like almost rage inside. And I was like, oh, dude, I want to throw this guy out of his hotel window right now. I mean, he's like 45 pounds bigger than me, 4 inches taller than me. It was not going to end up being a good fight on my end anyways. But that really motivated me. And when I went back from Australia, I went to the art store and I got this tag board and this glow in the dark paint. And I did this actually when I wanted to break the high school record in high school. Is I painted on this board what I wanted my goal to be. And I would shine the light on that. And every night I would look at that thing and I would visualize in my mind what it was going to feel like to do that. So I painted on there 100 free AR 48.16, which was the American record that Jason had at that point. So I get to the Olympic trials in 2008. I swam the 200 preliminaries just to kind of get a swim in. I felt amazing. I had so much speed. I was in the second to last heat in lane 4. Lezak was in the third to last heat from lane 4. And Michael was the top seed last heat lane 4. I was standing behind the block. Lezak is swimming in the lane in front of me. And I never really pay attention, but like the crowd's getting into it. Sam Kendricks was announcing it. So anyways, Lezak ends up breaking his American record right in front of me in the preliminaries. And when I saw this, like my armpits just immediately started sweating and like my adrenaline, my heart rate went up. And I thought to myself, if there's one defining moment in my swimming career, it's now. Not for anyone else, but for me. And a lot of people think like, a great athlete is a great athlete if they can kind of perform on demand when it really matters. And I needed to live up to my own self in that moment. And I was like, all right, cool. I got to break the American record right now. Lezak just broke it. I'm going to break his American record right now. So I get on the block. I dive in. My right goggle pops off right at the start. But I'm like swimming the first 50. I feel amazing. I go off the wall. Lochte is next to me actually in lane 3. And he wasn't a sprinter in the 100 freestyle, but like I was already kicking underwater when he was still going in for his turn. I was like, dude, I'm having an awesome race right now. I get to the wall. I hadn't even really turned on like my legs all the way at the end. And I would go 47.78, break the American record, first American under 48 seconds under free. And I was so thrilled to break Jason's record. And I remember I went back to the warm down pool and Eddie was like, hey, that was awesome. Great swim, get in the water. We have another one tonight. He was so trained up. Like he'd seen this before. Cool, that was a great swim. We have another one to take care of. So I went to the semifinals. I didn't swim as well in the semifinals. I went like 48.2. I was super kind of annoyed by that and short with my parents and coaches that night. And then went back to the finals. It was like, all right, got it. It's go time. I ended up winning that race, making the first Olympic team, 47.92, beat Lezak head to head. Carolyn Joyce, who was a great friend of mine, she came up to me and was like, oh my God, Lezak, you beat Lezak, because she knew the story. And I couldn't tell if I was more excited to beat Lezak or make the Olympic team in that moment. But then, I was just feeling so good and went to the 50 and won the 50 as well. And I remember Gary Hall in the ready room. He came in this big cape, like this big kind of American cape. And everyone was like, oh, this is so cool. Gary, tell us about it. And I was like, here Gary is trying to get everyone off their game. Like, I'm not even paying attention to him. So I just like to put my back to it and just focus on the 50 and had a great 50. And that was kind of the entrance to the Olympic Stadium for me, just like making the first Olympic team.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, for sure.
So take us through the gap of time between making the Olympic team and showing up to the Olympic Village. Like, what's going through your head? How's training going? Like, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I was feeling really good. We were in, Palo Alto for 3 weeks. We went to Singapore for 10 days. I felt really awesome. I was super excited to compete. I had an opportunity to win 4 gold medals, 50, 100 free, 2 relays. And I felt like everything I had always worked for was about to come true. And the thing is, once you do something like that, no one ever can take it away. Like once you make the Olympics, like the game is kind of done, right? Anyone who ever doubted you, it's like, okay, cool. And again, that's like the dangerous part, right? So when I think about what I ever want my kids to follow in my journey, and I have a 5-year-old and almost 2-year-old, it's a kind of a tough challenge to like think about, frankly. Would I ever want my kids going down this path? There's certainly a lot of value in going down the athletic path and pursuing it to the height that I did. I would say when you look at a lot of athletes who go to this level, their life post athletics is very challenging in ways that I don't know that I'd want for my kids or is even healthy. Like the mental challenges of going to the top in something, not only on that journey, but after that journey are like pretty severe. And like think about like I went to the Olympics, won 2 gold medals, broke a world record, and still left the Olympics with disappointment because I didn't medal individually. I mean, think about how messed up that is. You go to the Olympics, you're part of the greatest relay of all time, has been voted the #1 relay in Olympic history, and you still leave with some disappointment. So I was feeling great going to the Olympics. I would say I still swam really well at the Olympics.
Yeah.
I don't know that I was quite as sharp and had quite as much speed when I was there as I did at the trials. I mean, that was one of the 2 or 3 best, racing periods that I'd ever done.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think you could take us through that 4x100 meter freestyle relay?
Totally, yeah.
Sweet.
So we're warming up. I get the wake up swim in. I remember going and eating breakfast. I'm going back to the kind of our apartments where we were staying in the village, and Phelps and his coach Bob walked by me and they're like, "Hey, did you see what the Frenchies said in the newspaper this morning?" I was like, "No, I don't even care what they're saying. Let's just go pool and take care of business." So went back to my room and was just feeling so good. I was like, "This is like done deal. We're gonna win the Olympic gold medal."
Wow.
I still have no idea how the French guys thought they were gonna win. I mean, even on paper. We had 3 guys who'd gone 47. I mean, I'd been 47.7. Michael had been 47.7. Jason had been 47.5. We knew someone else would go 47. And so it was just kind of already a foregone conclusion we were going to win the gold medal. I remember talking to Carolyn again the night before, like, it's going to be so cool having a gold medal this time tomorrow.
Wow.
So I got my stuff ready. I'm on the bus going to the pool. And I remember seeing the Olympic torch out the left-hand side of my, eye on the left-hand side of the bus, and was like, "Whoa, the torch is gold today. That means we're going to win gold on the relay." Like, I was seeing signs all over. Like, I was so sure. I warm up. I'm feeling good. I got my suit on. We're about to, go down to the ready room, and Lezak calls us, to the side. He's like, "Hey guys, I've gone to this race a bunch of times. When we go up as individuals, nothing good happens. So like, let's go swim this as a team." And, Michael, Cohen, and I just thought that was such wise advice. We just were so stoked. So we go up there, we're in the ready room. I mean, it's like super intense in there. No one's really talking. You can kind of cut the attention with a knife. I'm just super stoked to be in there to swim. There's like no fear, no nerves. Like, I'm there with my guys. We're going out to this race we're just going to do great in. I was going off Michael, and I'd practiced a couple of starts off Michael before, but
can I stop you real quick?
Yeah, totally.
Is it okay if we want to play the video and have you run us through it?
Totally,
I didn't want to have you do the race without it.
Totally.
All right, sweet.
I also got the video pulled up.
Yes.
So you, like, just to clarify, you had not heard that the French were saying we're gonna smash the Americans, that's what we came here for?
I hadn't heard that exact quote.
Okay.
I had heard that they were talking trash about the Americans, but I don't know that I'd heard that exact quote at that point.
Yeah.
All right.
It's all right, I got it. So just take us through it. You're going
totally.
up.
Let's do it. Yeah. So, we're just kind of primed up, feeling good at this point. I mean, I'm like in my zone, ready to go. They announced us. I mean, you can even see, I look at the camera now and I'm just like, it's go time. We're about to smash
smile.
these guys. Yeah, totally. Fred Bousquet, we knew him from swimming at Auburn. I really didn't know the other guys. And, strangely, 3 of them, Hilo, Laveau, and Bernard, they'd kind of just come on the scene in the past couple of years, just kind of out of nowhere. No one really even knew them. I guess, they said they were going to come to the, Olympics to smash us. But we're kind of just screaming some stuff to Michael at this point, getting him riled up. And we knew that the goal was basically have Michael be the front leg, and he was going to be able to kind of stay with everyone, which he pretty much did. I mean, Eamon Sullivan was the world record holder in the 50 at this point. He obviously went out super fast. Michael closed in this, second 50. And then the goal was I would extend a lead. Cullen liked to swim in the open water, so we were going to have him go third and extend our lead, and then Lezak, as a veteran, was going to, bring us home. So Eamon Sullivan obviously is out front. I think this is Nystrand in front, closest to us. Michael's closing. He's catching, Sullivan. I'm on the block. Like, okay, here we go. I go off the block, and right there, as I dive off, I'm thinking, my gosh, I may have just false started. Like, it just was so close. But luckily, I had swum enough races where I just kind of put that to the back of my mind and just kept swimming my own race. So I remember coming back, and like with 20 to 15 left, it really started hurting. But that's kind of when I really put on the gas all the way on my legs. So Cullen was going to go off, and luckily I was able to get the lead, but it wasn't quite far enough. And Fred Bousquet, he had the fastest split from the night before. And listen, this is the first guy to go under 19 seconds in the 50-yard freestyle. We knew that he was going to be super fast. Cullen swam 47.9. I don't think that was his fastest time at that point, maybe ever, but he still swam a good race. Bousquet just was really good. And you can even tell Bousquet's, not on the lane line here. That's one of the mistakes Bernard made, but there's a lot of space between Cullen and Bousquet. Phelps and I are just screaming basically everything we possibly can that you don't want your kids to hear at Lezak right now to, swim fast. And, Lezak goes off, and kind of right here at the 25-yard mark, they show the side angle video shot, and Lezak's head is at Bernard's feet. And we're like, Michael and I look at each other, gosh, looks like we're going to win silver here. And we would have been so disappointed with silver. I mean, we went there wanting to win a gold medal. That's what we came there for. But look at Lezak. He's right on the lane line. And Lezak had, everyone had ridden Lezak's wave for years and years and years. And he always, griped about it. But there Bernard was. And this was just a kind of immature error on his side. He went out too fast, number one. He got on our lane line, number two. Lezak rode that wave. And then I remember Lezak said that at the turn, he kind of thought for a second in his mind, like, hey, do I have a shot here? And then he was like, I got to do this. And he turned it on every single stroke he took that last 50. He was just getting closer and closer and closer. I'm just like pounding my fists on the block, screaming for him to go. And we had to look kind of over the edge to see, and then looked at the scoreboard on the far end of the pool to like make sure we won. I saw United States of America with the one next to it. And from that point on, for like 10 or 15 minutes, I don't remember anything. Like none of the celebration. Like I'm in a completely different mind state. I don't even know what's going on right now. I do remember like Cullen sitting down and being like, Cullen, get up, dude, we got to celebrate. Like he was just like so tired of, gosh, what a dream come true. That was, dude, that's the pinnacle. That's what you dream of as a kid. That's what you strive for. And I remember actually a couple years later, I remember talking to Aaron Pearsall at one point and saying, dude, I really want to win an Olympic gold medal individually. He's like, there is literally no individual gold medal you could ever win that would come close to being on that relay. Like that relay is going to be more special than anything you could be a part of. And it's funny, I just got recently inducted into the Texas Swimming Hall of Fame. And they asked me about a couple of moments that were like most interesting to me in my swimming career. And I didn't even plan for this, but the moments that really stuck out to me were moments on relays. Those were, I had won stuff my whole career. I'd won, I wouldn't say I won tons of stuff. I mean, I won one NCAA title individually, another one on a relay. I won plenty of dual meet stuff, but, I'd won from the time I was an age grouper all through high school, all through college, nationals, world champ trials, Olympic trials, the Olympics. None of that, like individually, was as compelling and inspiring and fun as winning the relay events. Like that's where the energy was at its peak.
For sure. That's
that's
what a
amazing.
story.
I also find it super cool and super interesting that you guys went into that race thinking like, oh, we got this.
Totally.
That's so cool.
It was mind blowing to us that like anyone was going to think they were going to beat us.
Yeah.
Paul literally last night while we were writing up the outline did the calculations just off base times, and he in the outline literally says French were favored by 1.5 seconds. So Paul was a hater too.
That's what I had with so I did a speech on this on this relay last year for my class.
Cool.
And like who went the first leg for France, he broke the Olympic record in the prelims in the 100 on the first leg. And then the second guy for the French, he had posted at the time of French Olympic trials a top 5 time of all time. And then the third guy, Bousquet, had posted the fastest split in history. And then the fourth going into that race before it got broken was the world record holder.
Yeah.
So I just found that like super unique that like they got all those accolades that you guys just like, bring it, let's go.
Yeah.
We're gonna take them.
And maybe that some of that was like, you know, we knew how fast we were and how capable we were. And I never really looked at other people's times much in swimming. I was kind of just focused on what I was doing. And there was a time my freshman year of college, I remember, you know, going to breakfast with Neil Walker and be like, God, I wonder what the guys at Stanford are doing. What kind of training are they doing? And he just kind of looked at me and said, don't even worry. Like, don't even think about what anyone else is doing. All that matters is the stuff that you're doing, the times you want to go. All that's really irrelevant. That's one of the beauties of swimming, right? Is you can kind of put your own recipe together and you can improve, and you've got your own lane that's pretty much untouchable. Sure, there could be some waves, but you're in control of whether you go 47 or 49. And if you go 47, it's the best time, and everyone else goes 45 to make the Olympic teams, well, you still want a best time. You can't control the other stuff.
Exactly. So after this, like, just freaking biggest moment and like pretty much, I mean, greatest relay of all time, clearly, what's kind of like, you've already peaked, like, what are you looking towards after that? Like mentally, physically?
Yeah, I mean, that was part of the challenge, right? You go and one of the things that I was kind of annoyed by missing out on the 50 and 100 medals, and then I was kind of rededicated to getting back individually competing on that stage. And I went from wanting to prove everyone wrong, and then it's like, okay, cool, I did that, I made the Olympic team. Then I had to figure out something new to be inspired by, and then it was like, okay, cool, I got to the top. How do I stay here? What's the puzzle for continuing to stay world class and improving my craft? So my opinion is people should continue going best times into their, probably even early 30s, frankly. Most people in college don't come near tapping their potential. They just either probably aren't good enough to continue warranting to swim because they can't do it professionally. But most people continue, going faster for years and years. So for me, it was just about how much faster could I get? How could I refine all the things that I was doing? And I had ups and downs, right? I got third in 2009 in the 50 and the 100. Yep. 2010, I didn't, do great. And, I made the Pan Pac team and qualified for the world champ team, but thought maybe I didn't want to swim anymore. And then went to France and apprenticed in this kitchen. And I remember the first day for 5 weeks I was there, I wasn't going to go swim, and the head chef was like, no, we've arranged for you to go to this pool. And I was like, no, I'm here on my kind of break. I'm not going to swim. He's like, no, you're a swimmer. Go to the pool. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll go to the pool. And I, told myself, I'm going to go to the pool every day. I'm going to swim until I get bored or unhappy, and then I'm going to get out. And sometimes I swim for 10 minutes and sometimes I swim for 80 minutes. It's just kind of all how I felt. And I kind of rekindled my love for swimming. Because one of the dangers is, and this is like one of the things that I worry about for just most athletes, in particular my kids, is like in athletics, we focus so much on the product. I want to win an Olympic gold medal. I want to swim in college. I want to make an Olympic team. I want to go this time. And we are doing the process, but a lot of times the coaches are scripting the process for us. I don't know how many athletes actually love the process of what they're doing. Some do, but this is even alarming. How many swimmers do you know who, when they finish college, they continue swimming frequently? basically zero, almost no one. So the question is, does anyone actually really like swimming? Or are they just doing it because their friends are there, because they're trying to go a specific goal time? And so, the process is really important. And I lost sight of that. And in 2010, I rekindled that of just like, oh yeah, I love being in the water. It feels really good. There are other things to focus on than just being, the best. And then 2010, I swam great the rest of that year. So I'm awesome at the short course world championships. That next summer in 2011, I had the second fastest, relay split in the world, the 100-meter freestyle. And I was talking to Ed and Chris of like, okay, cool. I want to win an Olympic gold medal in the 100 freestyle next summer in 2012. What do I need to do? And they're like, well, Eddie said, you've always, battled getting stronger. So we got to get stronger. So I went from lifting 3 days a week for an hour to lifting 4 days a week for an hour and a half, and just went bonkers in the weight room. And I got so much stronger. But the reality is I needed so much more rest to recover that muscle and taper before the world champion for the Olympic trials in 2012. And we got behind the 8 ball and didn't realize how much extra rest I needed to get my natural speed. And I got to the Olympic trials in 2012 and didn't have my natural speed and missed the Olympic team in the finals, getting 8th in the 100 freestyle. And that was super disappointing. I would say it didn't hurt the same as 2004, but I take a lot of the responsibility for that. Certainly Ed and Chris have some responsibility, I would say, as well. But Ed has said that he's probably 2% of the equation. Coaches are 2% of the equation. I think that's actually about right. So most of the responsibility was on me going too hard in the weight room. But what really kind of primed that up is I remember like 3 weeks later, after the Olympic trials, I'd just been kind of swimming still and having fun at the outdoor pool. And I went back to the pool and saw the guys, and they were doing pace. And I was like, I'm going to get into do pace, and got in the water and I was just lights out. I mean, my pace was incredible. And I was like, you know what? I knew this was the reality. And like today proved it. I was just like going pace that, was natural, easy speed that, I would have gone 47 probably in the 100 freestyle if the trials had been 3 weeks later. So I tried for 3 Olympic teams. I made 1, I missed it on 2. That's probably a pretty good hit rate for things we try and do in life, and learned a ton along the way for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, for sure. It's like a great story you've told today. If you could give one piece of advice to like anyone, it doesn't have to relate to swimming, just anything in general, just in life, what would it be?
Yeah. Try a lot of different things to figure out what you're really excited about doing, what you enjoy, and where that matches kind of feedback you get from the outside world. So like we have kind of energy inside us. So do we like this? Do we not like this? Does swimming give us energy? Does baseball give us energy? Does art give us energy? And then the world gives us, energy back. It either gives us energy back or it doesn't. One of that could look like you love swimming and you end up winning a lot of races, and people say, wow, you're a really good swimmer. So you've kind of linked both those together. If you love swimming, but you never win and you're not very good, well, you can keep swimming, but you haven't really been given the feedback from the market or the industry or the marketplace or the competition that you're really good. And so what's most fun that I've found is when you match the thing that you're really excited about and have energy for to what the world is giving you energy back. That's what I did in swimming. I love swimming. It was a blast for me. And the swimming community both gave me that feedback verbally, and coaches saying how good I was and wanting to coach me. And I won stuff, and that was super fun. But I found that because I did a lot of different athletics. I did, all different types of camps, soccer, baseball, downhill skiing, which was my first dream. And I didn't start focusing on swimming, year round until I was a freshman in high school. A lot of people would say that's really late. I think that was actually the perfect time. And the more research they do, they've found that people who go to the top in sports, they actually specialize late. So all these coaches out here who are trying to get kids to specialize when they're early, in my opinion, that's just super self-serving on the coach's standpoint. It has nothing to do with being in the best interest of the kid. It's just the ego of the coach or the financial, necessity for the team.
Gotcha.
Sure.
Well, I think that's a wrap for episode 18.
Cool.
Garrett Weber-Gale, it's been an honor to have you on. It's pretty crazy. When I was swimming and when I didn't want to go to swim practice, I would throw on the 4x100 meter freestyle relay. and that would like motivate me to go.
Cool.
So to be talking to you right now, it's been an honor, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hook 'em. Appreciate y'all having
There we
me
go.
on.
Hook 'em. Episode 18 in the books.
Yo.
Thanks, y'all.